Cheers, and welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to be looking at the complete Legend of Zelda timeline. Well, at least from The Legend of Zelda to Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is obviously not going to be included in this, but I assume it happens later. I'm just gonna stick Tears of the Kingdom at the very end. But yeah, I know very little about Zelda in general. I know that Ganondorf keeps kidnapping her, and Link is always trying to rescue her. And that is about what I know about Legend of Zelda. So if you want to see more Zelda content, let me know in the comments below. If there's anything else you'd like to make me watch, again, let me know down below what it is you want me to see. And make sure you don't forget to like and subscribe. If you subscribe, you'll always know when we post new content, which is basically every single day. So, can't go wrong there. Now, let's find out the actual timeline, because apparently it's complicated.
The Zelda timeline is almost as legendary as the titular character. The games are all connected by one of the most convoluted and intricate timelines in gamedom. Even with the help of Nintendo's Hyrule Historia, understanding it is a heroic quest all on its own. So we're gonna dig into the most up-to-date Zelda timeline humanly possible. Nintendo swapped some things around in August 2018, and a few games were released after the Historia, but we got you. Thousands of years before Ocarina of Time creation. The world was created out of chaos by three goddesses, Din, Nehru, and Furore. Their work done, the three goddesses up and leave, but for reasons unknown, they leave the Triforce with the goddess Hylia. Here's some Triforce 101. Anyone who merely touches the Triforce will have their wish come true, as long as they have a balance of the three virtues, power, wisdom, and courage. If the would-be possessor doesn't have this balance, the Triforce splits apart, leaving the finder with whichever piece they most embody. Two random individuals are chosen by the goddesses to possess the other two pieces. The Triforce's power is much greater if all three pieces are united. Oh, and it doesn't distinguish between good and evil. Immediately thereafter, era of the goddess Hylia. After a while, the Demon King, Demise, arises and wants the Triforce to rule the world.
He's pretty cool looking. I didn't know he existed. I was like, he looks like how I sometimes picture. He looks like the new Ganondorf, kinda. Like when Ganondorf got sexy recently.
He gathers a demon army and wages an epic battle against Hylia to steal the Triforce. In order to ensure their survival, Hylia gathers the remaining humans and the Triforce onto some land that she sends into the sky. This land would become known, appropriately, as Skyloft. Hylia and the remaining surface tribes defeat Demise and seal him away in the temple on the Isle of the Goddess. However, the seal isn't strong, and the Triforce can't be used by a goddess, which feels like a major oversight. Hylia entrusts Impa of the Sheikah tribe with safeguarding the sealed grounds, a role that would be passed down through Sheikah generations. Hylia is reborn as a human named Zelda. Decades later, Sky Era, Skyward Sword. Generations pass and Skyloft thrives. On the 25th anniversary of their sweet Knight Academy, Link passes a big test, but also Zelda is dragged to the surface by the demon lord Girahim, a follower of Demise who's been scattering demons across the surface. Link is visited by the spirit of the goddess sword, Fi, who informs him that he's Hylia's chosen hero. Impa, meanwhile, helps out Zelda. Then there's a whole story involving purifying, time jumping from the original Temple of Time, and long naps. Eventually, Link kills Demise, but not before the Demon King lays a curse, a never-ending cycle where the Demon King would be reincarnated, the thirst to take over the world, and a
that explains why he looks like Ganondorf.
Special hatred for those with the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero. Link shrugs it off, absorbs Demise into the Master Sword, and leaves the Master Sword in a pedestal in the sealed temple. Zelda moves to the surface to protect the Triforce. Era of Chaos. The surface becomes known as Hyrule. Many years of peace go by, but legends of the power of the Triforce eventually incite an era of chaos and violence. To protect the Triforce, the Sage of Light, Rauru, makes himself the guardian of the Light Temple in the Sacred Realm and places the Triforce inside it. Rauru seals the realm off from Hyrule, placing the only entrance in a new Temple of Time, which he builds over the ruins of the sealed temple. He closes off the Master Sword behind the Door of Time and scatters the keys, the three spiritual stones. Era of Prosperity. Rauru's intricate one-man plan.
So, like, is this... Okay, so I am a little bit confused already, because of course I am. About, like... So Skyward's... Alright. I guess I should have probably done a little bit extra research and figured out what order were the games released in, because this is clearly also one of the older ones in the like that was released in general. So, and, which is nice that it's not just like they weren't filling in a lot of prequel stuff, I guess. Like, do people, like, how much does the lore, like, is that the reason people play? Is it because of the lore? Because, like, I know there are a lot of games out there that have, like, some really in-depth lore, but, like, they're perfectly fine and fun to play, even if you don't know it. Is Zelda one of those games?
And works. Zelda's descendants establish the Kingdom of Hyrule and declare themselves the royal family, building their castle around the Temple of Time to protect the Triforce. Force era, the Minish Cap.
Also, apparently Zelda has descendants. I did not I was just like, I thought it was just Link and Zelda. Apparently, it's a lot more than that.
Hyrule is suddenly overwhelmed by evil, but lo, Picori descends from the sky and gives the hero of man a Picori blade and the Light Force. And yes, the Force has basically the same meaning as in Star Wars. The hero seals all the baddies in the bound chest, closed tight with the blade. Zelda internalizes the Light Force. Watch for the Zelda light motif from now on. 100 years later, a shady mage named Vati breaks the Picori blade and opens the chest, hoping to find the Light Force. Instead, he releases a bunch of evil and turns Zelda to stone. Zelda's stone curse can only be broken with the Picori blade, and the blade can only be fixed by the Picori, and the Picori can only be seen by children. So, Smith the blacksmith volunteers his young apprentice, Link. While Vati has Hyrule under his thumb, Link eventually brings the 4 elements and a fixed Picori blade to a secret elemental sanctuary in Hyrule Castle. This restores the legendary Force Sword, which can split one warrior into 4. With the help of his sweet new sword and a convenient wishing cap, Link vanquishes Vati and the destruction of Hyrule is undone. 1 generation later,
Good for
4
Link.
swords. Vati suddenly reappears, but with no memory of the Light Force ordeal. He overtakes the Palace of Winds and dubs himself the Wind Mage. A hero dutifully swoops in with the Force Sword and defeats Vati, sealing him in the sword and enshrining him in the Elemental Sanctuary.
So, like, is everyone just getting reincarnated all the time and, like, keeping their same names? Is that what's happening? Do, like, they remember the things that... Because she said, like, generations had passed. Like, so does Link and Zelda always remember what has happened to them?
Several more generations pass before the seal begins to weaken. Zelda and Link go in for a checkup one day to find it broken.
Or are they just immortal?
In a cartoonish cliche, Vati whisks Zelda away to the Palace of Winds to become his bride. Link is instructed by fairies to unsheath the Force Sword and split into 4 different Links upon doing so. The foursome then hones their skills, travels to the Palace of Winds, and defeats Vati. Vati is sealed in the Force Sword, which is returned to its pedestal. Link becomes one person once again. The era of the hero of time, Ocarina of Time. For countless eras, Hyrule descends into civil war. Why? We don't know. You start to wonder whether Nintendo is leaving certain things open on purpose. In the midst of this conflict, a woman flees to the Forbidden Forest and with her dying breath entrusts her baby to the Deku Tree to raise the child of a Kokiri. The child's name? Tingle! Just kidding, it was Link. The war finally ends shortly thereafter. About 10 years later...
Or, like, okay, so the other thing I guess I'm wondering is, like, They keep having just the same 2 people, like, popping in and out and in and out and in and out. Like, are they the same people? Or is there, like, different dimensions? Like, different ways it could have gone? Or... This is supposed to answer my questions, not make it more complicated.
Zelda and Link meet and discover that Ganondorf, the leader of the Gerudo, faked his loyalty to the king and is after the Triforce. They gather all the spiritual stones before Ganondorf does. But oops, Ganondorf finds out and invades the castle, forcing Zelda to flee. Link runs to the Temple of Time and opens the Door of Time with the Ocarina of Time that Zelda chucked at him. He lifts the Master Sword from the pedestal OG Link placed in it years ago, which opens the Sacred Realm. But because he's too young to be the hero of time, Link enters a 7-year nap in the Temple of Light.
Okay, so the OG Link. So it was a different Link. They just keep naming... Is it his soul that gets reborn and that's why they name him Link? Like, because they can just tell? So confused. I'm so
left
confused.
The Sacred Realm wide open for Ganondorf, who tries to snag the full Triforce, but merely retains the Triforce of Power. He's still able to conquer Hyrule and corrupt the Sacred Realm, and the Temples of the Sages, making Link's job significantly harder when he finally wakes up. But wake up he does. He awakens the 7 Sages too. Ganondorf kidnaps Zelda, and Link heads to Ganon's castle to do battle o'clock. A volatile situation, given that Zelda has the Triforce of Wisdom, and Link now possesses the Triforce of Courage. Hey, listen, we've reached the critical juncture of the Zelda.
I know about her too. I know about Navi or whatever. Hi, listen. Or whatever. She's apparently annoying. All I know is that my friend in college used to do that all the time.
Timeline. From here, it splits into 3 distinct timelines based on the outcome of this battle and time-traveling shenanigans. Let's start with what we see happen in Ocarina. Link wins the one-on-one battle, but Ganondorf uses the last of his Triforce power to transform into Demon King Ganon. Zelda and Link beat the beast, and the 7 sages seal a once again human Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm, along with the Triforce of power he possesses.
I mean, human? Man needs to go to a doctor.
Peace is restored, but Zelda feels guilty that she donked up the whole spiritual stones ordeal and caused Link to lose 7 years of his life. So, she plays the Ocarina of Time and sends Link back to relive his childhood. This creates 2 timelines.
So he couldn't just, like, because if he had to wait anyway, why didn't he just wait and, like, grow normally? Or did he have to, like, basically age up really, really quickly and it till they get 7 years older? Also, was he still like baby child in his brain? Like, it doesn't seem like he would have matured at all.
Child era and the adult era. The child era stems from Link's actions after he's sent back in time. The adult era is a continuation from when Zelda sends Link back to his childhood. The Twilight Realm and the legacy of the hero. Child era. Era of the hero of time. Child era, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. Immediately upon returning to his original time, Link restores the Master Sword to its realm-sealing pedestal and warns Zelda of the future's dangers. Zelda gives Link the ocarina and tells him to get the F out. You know, so Ganondorf can't open the door of time with the ocarina. Also, worth noting that Ocarina's 7 sages don't awaken in this timeline. Link takes his horse, Epona, and sets off. Months later, he finds himself in a mysterious forest that leads him into a parallel world, Termina. Unfortunately, Termina's going through a tough time. This imp, Skull Kid, has the super powerful Majora's Mask and is going to cause the world's scariest moon to crash into the earth. Link only has 3 days.
I've seen that image. I didn't realize it was from a Zelda game. Jesus. I've seen that moon thing.
Time to stop Skull Kid and prevent the apocalypse. Using the Ocarina of Time and an assortment of masks, Link revives 4 guardian giants and beats both Skull Kid and Majora's Mask itself. With no more scary moon breathing down their necks, the people of Termina have a nice festival. Link moves on, apparently to settle in Hyrule and become depressed that no one remembers him as a hero.
Well, his shield is terrifying. Did y'all see that? Why does he got like a face in his shield? Why has he got a face in there? It looks like he's got like a I don't like that. Creepy.
Apparently to settle in Hyrule and become depressed that no one remembers him as a hero. 100 years later, Twilight era, Twilight Princess. Finally, Ganondorf is due to be executed. However, because Link returned from the future with his Triforce of Courage, the Triforce in this timeline dutifully split and gave Ganondorf the Triforce of Power. But because this Ganondorf never touched Triforce himself, he's not as powerful. In any case, the ancient sages find they can't kill Ganondorf because of that darn Triforce piece. So, he turns the tables and kills one of the sages instead. The remaining sages send him off to the Twilight Zone. Twilight Realm. There, Ganondorf makes a new buddy, Zan, and they scheme to turn the Light World and Twilight Realm into a single dark world. They curse Midna, the Twilight Princess, and invade a woeful, unprepared Hyrule.
And Midna is not Zelda, apparently. I just assumed all of the princesses were Zelda.
Zant corners Zelda and forces her to surrender to protect the kingdom from war. To oppose Zant, Midna finds a swell gathered in Ordon village named Link, a direct ancestor of the hero of time. This new Link is transformed into a wolf when he enters the Twilight. But that's kind of cool, right? Link restores some light and finds the Master Sword in the Sacred Grove. The Temple of Time is just a ruin in the forest. Interestingly, the Kokiri make no appearance. We're led to believe they've died out. In the end, Link beats Ganondorf and the Triforce of Power ditches him, meaning Ganondorf actually dies. Midna's curse is lifted and she returns to the Twilight Realm, smashing the Mirror of Twilight so the 2 realities could mingle no more. Several hundred years later, Era of Shadow, 4 Swords Adventures. Relations between Hyrule and the Gerudo finally become friendly, but then a new reincarnation of Ganondorf is born, with all the memories and thoughts of the previous one.
Because I know the curse said that, you know, the Demon King was going to keep getting reincarnated with again, the desire to take over the world forever, and also just the hatred of Zelda and Link, which I guess forced those 2 to also become perma reincarnations, but I still don't know how much they remember, like, or why they keep getting the same names.
Yeah, I know. New
And looking exactly the same.
Dorf wants to resurrect Vati, who's been chilling inside the Force Sword this whole time. So he steals the Dark Mirror and uses it to spawn shadow versions of Link. Sensing there's evil afoot, Zelda gathers real Link and the 6 Shrine Maidens to check on Vati's seal. But the maidens and Zelda are swept away upon entering the Elemental Sanctuary, which is still there after all this time, even though the Temple of Time crumbled after only a few decades. All alone, Link draws the Force Sword, creating 4 new friends, and, oops, releasing Vati. Several Shrine Maiden rescues later, the Links head to the Tower of Winds, save Zelda, and destroy both Vati and the tower for good. They then defeat the now demonized Ganon and seal him in the Force Sword, which is set back in its pedestal in the Elemental Sanctuary.
They just keep going back to the same pedestal over and over and over again. It's like, this thing does not keep anything safe. It has been destroyed and used and broken so many times.
And that's just one branch of this whole timeline. Rewind to the Adult Era. The Hero of Winds and a New World, Adult Era. Link and Zelda defeat Ganon, and the 7 sages seal him away in the corrupted sacred realm, Triforce of Power and all. Zelda sends Link back to his own time, where all the Majora's Mask stuff goes down. So let's explore the post-Ocarina of Time story that Link no longer exists in. Zelda returns the Master Sword to its pedestal and closes the door of time, so the sacred realm could never be reopened. The story of the Hero of Time becomes legend, much to the hero's own jealousy, I'm sure. Many years later, era without a hero. Eventually, Ganondorf's seal begins to weaken. He escapes, plunging Hyrule into darkness. Everyone prays the hero will save them, but he never appears. Apparently, not bothering to explore other options, the king of Hyrule, Daphnis, entrusts his kingdom to the gods in desperation. The gods tell certain citizens to escape to the tallest mountains. A torrential rain then floods the world, plunging Ganondorf, King Daphnis, and Hyrule itself to the bottom of the ocean and sealing them away. Princess Zelda escapes, with her retainers and a fragment of the king's Triforce of Wisdom. Hundreds of years later, era of the Great Sea, the Wind Waker. Let's check in on how this drastic landscape shift affected evolution. The Kokiri have become cute plant-like creatures called Koroks. The Zora slowly grew bird-like beaks and became the Rito, moving gracefully from water to air. The Gorons are still Gorons. Why mess with perfection? Anywho, Ganon escapes his watery grave and kills the 2 sages, who'd been praying for evil repelling powers to return to the Master Sword. He then searches for Princess Zelda and the Triforce of Courage by kidnapping any girl with pointy ears. The gods wake up King Daphnis and instruct
at one point he'll be right? He'll get there eventually if he does that.
him to stop Ganondorf. Daphnis channels his spirit through a slick red boat and discovers Link freshly kicked out of Ganondorf's fortress in an attempt to rescue his sister. Daphnis doesn't know he's the Link yet, but he's wearing the right getup. Link's actually embarrassed about the outfit. The birthday boy was forced to wear it to honor the Hero of Time. With the occasional help of Tetra, the sassy pirate.
Well, Tetra, the sassy pirate, is dressed like Seahawk from She-Ra, the new one.
Link raises the Tower of the Gods and descends into Hyrule to retrieve the Master Sword. He goes to challenge Ganondorf again, except darn, the Master Sword's powerless. Daphnis reveals that he's more than a talking boat, and surprise, Tetra is the descendant of Princess Zelda. Link awakens 2 new sages to repower the Master Sword. Also, the Triforce of Courage was shattered into 8 pieces when the Hero of Time was ocarina'd back to his original era, so Link has to gather that too. Armed with the classic wares, Link goes to kick Ganondorf's butt, only to find Zelda has been kidnapped. With the 3 pieces of the Triforce reunited, Ganondorf is about to win when Daphnis appears.
Is this the one where your princess is in a different castle? Or is that Mario? I know things. I've heard of things.
Out of nowhere, grabs the Triforce, and wishes for Hyrule to be washed away in exchange for a brighter future. Dramatic, right? Link's Master Sword and Zelda's light arrows turn Ganondorf to stone. Ganondorf, Hyrule, and by his own volition, King Daphnis are washed away for good, officially ending Hyrule and the struggle for the Triforce. A few months later, era of the Great Voyage, Phantom Hourglass. With their epic quest of destiny fulfilled, Link, Zelda, Tetra, and the pirates set off in search of a new world. All the islands are perfectly fine, but whatever. A few months in, they go to investigate the ghost ship in waters ruled by the Ocean King. Tetra jumps aboard and gets kidnapped again, and Link is hurled onto a strange island. For the record, the Ocean King's waters are in a different dimension, created by the gods who created Hyrule. There's also still Gorons. Gorons are a freaking force of nature. Link gathers some spirits and gets a cool Phantom Sword. He defeats the ghost baddie and returns to his dimension with Tetra, where, dun dun dun, only 10 minutes have passed. Spirit tracks. So, after the
I will say I do like that kind of thing with like dimension travels where it's like you think it's been a while, but it really has only been a couple of minutes in wherever you're from. Um, that can be great and it can be horrible. Like imagine if because Chronicles of Narnia does it. Spoiler alert for Chronicles of Narnia. But like they go to Narnia and then they all grow up, like they're all adults, and then they go back through the wardrobe and they all end up back in their child bodies again, which is like, that's bad in its own way. But imagine if they had gone through the wardrobe, they come back moments later, like in the same moment they left, but now they're adults. Like those 4 children are going to be considered missing, and the 4 grown-ups who have taken over their names are going to be arrested for like all sorts of, I don't know. It is always an interesting dynamic, like, or not dynamic, but it is always an interesting thing when it almost no time has passed, but like it's been months.
Longest 10 minutes of their lives, their voyage continues. At last they land on a new continent. It already has the Spirit Tower, where the Demon King Malladus was sealed by the gods a really long time ago. Not Demise. He's dead in the Master Sword, remember? The tower's connected to 4 temples by a train, whose spirit tracks maintain the seal. Neat! Tetra founds New Hyrule, and her soldiers adopt green uniforms in honor of her BFF, the Hero of Winds. 100 years later, Era of Hyrule's rebirth. Just so we're on the same page, this next Zelda is Tetra's great-great-granddaughter. But Nico, one of Tetra's pirates, is still alive. I don't understand this. He must be part Goron or something. The spirit tracks are disappearing, so Zelda recruits Link, a royal engineer who lives with Nico and is the spitting image of the Hero of Winds. They head to the Spirit Tower, but Chancellor Cole is plotting to resurrect Malladus. He and his cohort sever Zelda's spirit from her body. Link and Spirit Zelda eventually ascend the Spirit Tower, find Malladus fully resurrected, and defeat him in the Dark Realm. Zelda gets her body back, and the tribe who'd been safeguarding the temple decides their duty is complete. They return to the heavens, entrusting New Hyrule to Zelda and company. And that's all for the adult era. Okay, rewind. The decline of Hyrule and the last hero, Fallen Hero timeline. The adult and child eras happen if Link beats Ganondorf in their mano-a-mano match. The third timeline follows a darker possibility.
Ooh.
Now, picture this. Ganondorf actually defeats Link. He obtains the remaining 2 pieces of the Triforce from Link and Zelda and transforms into Demon King Ganon. The 7 sages seal Demon Ganon.
That's an option? Dude! I mean, more power to Nintendo, I guess. Like, I would not have... Okay, you can lose, and then you can have a whole new timeline. That's cool.
And the full Triforce away in the Sacred Realm. Peace briefly returns, but people now know about the Triforce and the entrance to the Sacred Realm. No one puts the Master Sword back in this timeline, but the realm has been transformed into the Dark World by Ganon's evil heart. So any and all who enter are turned into monsters and conscripted into Ganon's army. Eventually, there are so many monsters that they spill into Hyrule. The king orders the 7 sages to seal the once sacred realm entirely. They succeed, but only after most of the Hylian knights are killed. The imprisoning war ends, but it leaves Hyrule in shambles, and the goddess-infused bloodline of the Hylians and the power of the sages begins to weaken. The era of light and dark, linked to the past. Despite this bleakness, uneventful
I see what they did there.
This reigns until a magical priest named Aghanim wants to break the seal. He brainwashes soldiers, kills the king, and sacrifices the descendants of the 7 sages, sending them into the Dark World. Zelda, the last to be sacrificed, emits a telepathic help plea and is heard by Link and his uncle, the last surviving knights of Hyrule. Except Link's uncle is killed immediately upon entering the castle, so Link takes Zelda to safety. He finds the Master Sword, surrounded by the Lost Woods now. Aghanim discovers Zelda's hideout and sends her to the Dark World, officially breaking the sage's seal. Link heads there as well, but instead of transforming into a demon, he becomes a pink bunny. Link rescues the descendants, defeats Aghanim and Ganon, and finds the Triforce. He uses it to wish for peace to be restored, thereby resurrecting the king and his uncle, and hands it to the royal family.
Okay, so apparently asking for peace is also the power of life and death.
A few years later, Link's awakening. Link starts to feel restless in this post-Ganon tranquility, so he goes on a sailing trip to seek more training. On his return trip to Hyrule, an intense storm strikes and busts his tiny ship. Link washes ashore on the island Koholint. Link discovers the only way to leave the island is to wake the Windfish, but also that the island merely exists as the Windfish's dream. He wakes him up anyway, and so Hyrule's hero becomes responsible for annihilating a dream island. Months later, Oracle of Seasons ages. As Link returns to Hyrule, hopefully with a heavy conscience, the Twin Witches Twinrova need some special flames to resurrect Ganon, so they send Onyx to Holodrum and Varin to Labrina to wreak havoc. Link is beckoned to the castle by the Triforce, and it transports him to Holodrum. He befriends Din the Dancer, aka the Oracle of Seasons. Onyx kidnaps her, throwing Holodrum seasons into chaos, but Link defeats Onyx and moves on to Labrina. After a cameo from an amply bosomed Impa, Varin possesses Nehru, the Oracle of Ages. She uses Nehru's time-traveling ability to go to the past, possess the Queen, and build an ominous tower. But Link bests Varin and everything goes back to normal. Notice these oracles are named after the goddesses, and the Triforce itself put Link up to this? Coincidence? Probably not. Regardless, both the flames of destruction and despair have been lit. Twinrova kidnaps Zelda as the sacrifice to ignite the final flame. Naturally, Link intervenes and kills Twinrova, who sacrificed themselves to resurrect Ganon. But because the ritual was incomplete, Ganon comes back as a burly dummy and is easily bested.
Nice.
Centuries later, a Link between worlds. At some point, the Triforce is split apart. The Triforce of Power goes to Ganon, who's sealed away in the Dark World, and apparently not dead. It makes sense if the sages sealed burly dummy Ganon, but anyway. Centuries after Island Killer Link's deeds, the wizard Yuga shows up and turns all of the descendants of the Seven Sages into paintings, including Zelda. He uses their power to release Ganon, and the two baddies become one. Hyrule and Yuga's world, Lorule, are thrown into chaos. Link, a blacksmith's apprentice, has been hot on Yuga's tail. He rescues the Seven Sages at the behest of Lorule's princess, Hilda. Only this whole scheme was Hilda's. You see, Lorule once had its own Triforce. Hilda's ancestors noticed its existence constantly caused wars, so they destroyed it. But that made Lorule a permanently dreary land of monsters and darkness. Undistracted by sad tales, Link defeats Yuga and makes Hilda realize she's been a jerk. Hilda returns Link and Zelda to Hyrule's sacred realm, where they find the Triforce whole again.
I mean, like, it seems like they weren't wrong, though. This Triforce stuff, just... if everyone knows about it and everyone wants it, is going to cause problems.
Link wishes for the restoration of Lorule's Triforce. A few years later, Triforce Heroes. Link decides to check out Hytopia, an incredibly fashion-conscious kingdom. His visit coincides with a dramatic situation, wherein the princess, Styla, was cursed by a witch to wear a dreadful brown jumpsuit. Mortified, Styla locks herself away in a room, and everyone is sad. Yes?
Like, what? What? I'm sorry, what? Okay, sure.
This is real, and yes, this is canon. Link and two other Link-like lads are recruited by the king to venture to the witch's lair. They undo the curse, and Hytopia is blessed with everlasting peace and style. Golden Era. Ever since the royal family regained the full Triforce, they use its power to make Hyrule expand and flourish. Boring. Era of Decline. The Adventure of Link. Eventually, one king decides to shake things up when he realizes the Triforce could feasibly be abused. He hides the Triforce of Courage away in a place only accessible with his spell's special crest. He only tells Princess Zelda because he doesn't trust her brother. And for good reason. When the king dies, the brother realizes he doesn't have the full Triforce and gets upset. His wizard friend interrogates Zelda, who stays quiet. The wizard loses his temper and casts a spell on her to sleep forevermore, until love's true kiss. Okay, he doesn't say that last part, but he still puts Zelda into a magical coma. Brother King is filled with grief and regret. To honor his sister, he decrees that all future royal females be named Zelda. Clearly, there's already been tons of Zeldas in the royal family. Maybe there were some Tiffany's or Rapunzel.
But now they're all gonna be Zelda forever. And then imagine if you have 3 daughters. Bring on the Zeldas, I suppose. But like, what are you gonna... Zelda 1, 2, and 3?
Along the way, so he just wanted to set the tradition in stone. Despite the king's best efforts, Hyrule declines. With no one wielding the full Triforce, the kingdom shrinks to a tiny fraction of its former glory and becomes known as Lesser Hyrule. Generations later, the legend of Zelda.
That's kind of petty. That's kind of Lesser Hyrule. I like these like giant bulldog. There's a blue bulldog and a angry cat. They look like something, those animals there, they look like something that would come out of, like, American Tail.
Corrected, but our old pal, Dummy Beast Ganon. He has no vestige of Ganondorfy intelligence, but his army can still invade Hyrule and steal the Triforce of Power. The reigning Princess Zelda divides the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 pieces and hides them throughout the kingdom. Ganon finds out and captures Zelda, but Impa flees with her orders from Zelda to find a hero. Just as demons catch up with her, a young out-of-town traveler appears. Impa explains her plight, and Link agrees to take on the quest. This guy guy, by the way, is likely a descendant of Island Killer Link. And no, I haven't let it go. You can guess what happens. Link gathers the Triforce of Wisdom and uses it to beat Ganon. The Adventure of Link.
Shocking.
Link
Never would
hangs
have
around
guessed.
Hyrule to help rebuild, but Ganon's cronies recoup and everything is torn up again. There's a rumor that Ganon can be resurrected by sacrificing Link and sprinkling his blood over Ganon's ashes. 6 years after he beat down Ganon, Link gets a weird mark on his hand and asks Impa about it. Impa takes him to Princess Zelda, the first's sleeping chamber. Well, she's not the first, but the first since her brother. Okay, you know what I mean. Turns out, Impa's line of nursemaids were the only ones who knew about it. Link can unseal the door with his crest, so Impa gives him a scroll made by the last great king. His crest enables him to read the scroll, and golly, it's a map to the Triforce of Courage. Link sets out, gets it, and uses its power to awaken sleeping Zelda. For some reason, this all means Ganon can't be resurrected. Maybe Link's too powerful for the dummy beast's dummies now. And so, peace and the full Triforce was restored to Hyrule. The end, for the third time. Or at least, I think so.
You have saved Hyrule, and you are a real hero! It's like, as opposed to a fake, as opposed to like, just what is the other option? But what's the other way that you could have gone around that?
We still have to address the timeline's richest mystery, Breath of the Wild. It's the only game not prescribed a spot on the timeline, Nintendo's purposefully leaving it to interpretation. We do know Breath of the Wild comes after, way after. Maybe so far in the future that it's the conclusion of all 3 timelines. We also have evidence for individual lines in Breath of the Wild. It's explicitly said that the Zora princess Ruto awakened as a sage, which only happens in the adult and fallen hero timelines. And there are the Koroks and the Rito, a strong case for the adult timeline. Except, there's also Zoras? Then again, the villain isn't Ganondorf, but the demonized Ganon, an argument for the fallen hero timeline. Maybe at some point the timelines reconverged, courtesy of the mighty wizard Aonuma. Regardless, here's the possible end to the legend. 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild, Ganon is about to burst his seal again. To fight him, Zelda oversees the construction of autonomous guardians and 4 divine beasts, championed by chosen warriors of the Zora, Rito, Gerudo, and Goron. With the additional aid of the hero, Ganon is thoroughly overwhelmed and sealed once more. Why don't they just kill him? Seriously, because he'll just be resurrected again. Okay. These machines lay forgotten for thousands of years, until excavations unearth them just as Calamity Ganon begins stirring again. Now, Zelda reactivates the Guardians and chooses 4 new champions. But when Calamity Ganon attacks, he overrides control of the Guardians and the Divine Beasts. Hyrule was losing. Link's nearly killed in the conflict. Zelda brings him to the Shrine of Resurrection to save his life. Then, she heads back to the castle alone to seal Ganon herself. 100 years later, Breath of the Wild. When Link wakes up, he has amnesia, but looks incredibly good for his age. The same cannot be said of Hyrule. Zelda's seal is still saving everyone from the worst of Ganon's power, but keeping that up for 100 years isn't easy. After getting a handy parasail from the King's Ghost, Link finds Impa, who imparts Zelda's final message: free the 4 divine beasts. Long story short, Link frees the beasts and the spirit of the champions trapped.
And Impa's, what, also immortal, I guess? She just keeps popping up, too.
Final message: free the 4 divine beasts. Long story short, Link frees the beasts and the spirit of the champions trapped within. He also regains some memories and finds the Master Sword in the Lost Woods, where Zelda had left it under the protection of the Great Deku Tree. Teamwork defeats Calamity Ganon. One's left with the impression that this time, it's for actual, non-resurrecting good. At least, until the next Zelda game. We did it! I could go for a nap. Wake me up in about 7 to 1,000 years. Do you have any theories about Breath of the Wild's placement? Let us know in the comments. I've been your host, Sydney. Like this video and subscribe to the Leaderboard. And if you're still in the adventurous spirit, take a look at our 107 facts about the Legend of Zelda.
Okay, well that was the complete timeline. Up until the most recent one, which is Tears of the Kingdom. Which again, who knows when that takes place? I still have no idea. And I still don't know what's going on. And I'm still just as confused as I was. So, that's great. I learned so much. I mean, I did learn maybe that there are a lot of different links. I definitely didn't realize that they were all different. I thought it was just like the same 2 over and over again. So, I mean, I guess I learned one thing. I was like, I had so many friends who played these games like religiously. Like I can recognize Link if you show him to me, kind of thing, and I can assume I know what Zelda looks like. But like, and Ganondorf, I can kind of, I kind of have vague ideas of what these people are and who they look like, but generally, I'm just like, I don't know anything about it, which is annoying. But, oh well, I guess I've learned something. I'll take something. I'll take something over nothing. I will take something over nothing. And that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you leave a like and then subscribe to the channel. That way you'll always know when we put out new content. And make sure you let me know in the comments below what you thought and what you'd like me to react to next. See ya.